United. We just had Fabrizio Romano's just put a tweet out, which is well timed because I just want to talk about De Jong. Frankie's this is from Fabrizio in the last 2 minutes. Frankie De Jong's agents, Ali Dursun and somebody else, have informed Barcelona that Frankie still has no intention to leave. Also, that Frankie and agents are not accepting any salary reduction or talks related to that. Manchester United also informed, deal now stalling. Well, it's interesting that he's put that out in the last 2 minutes from Fabrizio, because I've obviously not done anything with my hands, and I already had this loaded up from when did this one come out? This was last night. This was 11:20 last night. We tweeted this, so this is interesting because is this just pure regurgitation? Because Fabrizio has tweeted 3 minutes ago that De Jong's agents have informed Barcelona that Frankie has still no intention to leave, and that his agents are not accepting any salary inductions or talks related to that. Okay, so that's come out as a breaking tweet from Fabrizio 3 minutes ago, and yet I already had that to talk about anyway, because he tweeted this last night at 11 o'clock. Frankie De Jong and his agents have informed Man United and Barcelona that at this moment he doesn't intend on leaving the club and will not accept the salary reduction. So I'm a little bit like, that might be breaking news to some of you, but we tweeted that last night from what he'd said on YouTube. So he's basically repeating what he said last night. So anyone who's panicking in the chat, I really wouldn't panic about this at all, because that came out last night on his YouTube channel. He's just retweeting or tweeting what he did. And this is the problem when you've got numerous outlets, because, you know, I've got a Twitter account, I've got a YouTube account, and I don't tend to repeat myself. I don't do that. I'll say I'm live on YouTube on my Twitter, and then I'll talk about what I want to talk about on YouTube. I think what's happened here is Fabrizio's been on his YouTube and said that the agents of De Jong have said that they don't want to leave, but they're not taking a pay reduction. That was last night that was said. And then this morning he's decided to put that information out on Twitter, and it becomes breaking news at 10 o'clock, but actually it was news last night. Time to move on from De Jong, says De Jong. Agents are obviously just trying to blackmail Barca into getting the unpaid wages, but we should step away from this mess. Yet another summer wasted chasing a player who isn't coming. I believe we publicly went for him knowing we wouldn't get him, but say we tried so they can say they tried to be competitive in the market, says Michael T. Mr. Baum, thank you very much for becoming a member there. Thank you very much. And to Roger as well. So look, I was going to talk about this anyway. For some of you, this is breaking news because Fabrizio has just tweeted it out, but he did say it yesterday. Let's analyse this. I would call it De Jong's defiance, really. So effectively, Frankie De Jong's agents have told Barcelona that he doesn't want to leave, but they're not taking a pay cut. You can panic about this. I can go and put the t-shirt on if you want. I do not change position on this. I have absolutely total faith in what Fabrizio is saying is true, but I do not think that that means he's not coming to Manchester United. Relax. Frankie goes to Manchester, says Franco. De Jong coming in at this point may trigger boos from fans amidst all the indications that he does not want to play for the badge. Let's move on, says Ogonna. I don't think that would happen. He's not coming, Mark. Just say it, says Shane. I don't believe that that's the case. And the great thing is that everybody has the capacity and right to make their own mind up on this. Some of you said from the very start I wouldn't sign him. It's a lot of money for a player that doesn't really want to come. I've always said you've got to give Erik ten Hag what he wants. And when you see what happened yesterday, you can see why we need a player like that. Because that midfield, especially McTominay, just doesn't know how to do that role. But we need a player who can do that role. And Frankie De Jong is obviously the player that Erik ten Hag thinks he can. Now, if you analyse and break apart what Fabrizio is saying, the agents of Frankie De Jong have told Barcelona they do not want to leave, but they will not accept a pay cut. Barcelona want to sell and cannot afford for him not to take a pay cut. So keeping Manchester United out of the equation for a moment, because that just makes it emotional. Barcelona want to sell De Jong and they need him to take a pay cut if he wants to stay. Frankie De Jong doesn't want to take a pay cut but wants to stay. Well, it's like two magnets hitting each other. That doesn't work. You can't. It's never going to work. You can push them together as much as you like, but they're just going to bounce off like magnets. So that doesn't work. And also, he is flexing his muscles that he's in power. And actually, all this is doing is breaking down the relationship between Barcelona and Frankie De Jong. They are not on the same page. They don't look like they're on the same page, and they're actually in conflict. And this is about who wins. Now, it could end up with Frankie de Jong staying at Barcelona and not having to take a pay cut. It could end up with Frankie de Jong staying at Barcelona and taking a pay cut. But in either of those scenarios, Barcelona or Frankie de Jong have to back down. The best scenario for everybody is that he gets the money he wants and he leaves. Welcome to Members Club Heng. And I think that's all that's happening here. Frankie de Jong has said he doesn't want to leave and he's not taking a pay cut. If he wants, and I'll throw this out there, if Frankie de Jong doesn't want to leave Barcelona and loves it so much, why don't you take a pay cut? Same with Messi. Messi didn't want to take a pay cut either and ended up going to PSG, but he didn't want to leave Barcelona. So look, you've got to look at the past and you've got to look at the situation. I think people panic about stuff, they overreact about stuff, and the reality is Frankie de Jong will not take a pay cut but wants to stay at Barcelona. So take the pay cut. Simple as that. But he won't take the pay cut. What I think is going on here is what I've been saying for a while. This whole deal could have been done 2 or 3 weeks ago. United have agreed a deal with Barcelona a long time ago. They've already agreed with Frankie de Jong what they'll pay him as well. He knows what United will pay him as well. This is driving this. He is sat there going, why should I stay at Barcelona and take a pay cut of 200 to 250 grand a week when United will give me 300 and something grand a week? And I'm owed 300 and I'm owed 15 million in euros, 15 million euros in wages. What Frankie de Jong is doing here is quite simple. He wants the money he's owed by Barcelona and he wants them to pay the wages that are in his contract, and then he'll stay. And if they're not going to pay him that money, then he's going to go. But he's not going to go until he gets the money he's owed. So this could run and run. And I think it's there is absolutely no chance, unfortunately, and this is where I do agree with people, there is absolutely no chance that Frankie de Jong is joining United to go on tour. It's not going to happen. And I look at that midfield yesterday, and he's playing Iqbal and Savage in the second half, and they played really, really well, but they're youngsters because we've got no midfield. Pogba and Matic have left. McTominay and Fred are still there, who are absolutely just not good enough and frustrate the life out of everybody as a pair. We are still picking McTominay and Fred in a Ten Hag era, and we've got nothing else. And that's what frustrates me. McTominay and Fred are still our number one midfield. They cost us everything last year. They lost nearly every midfield battle in the Premier League, whether it was bloody Norwich or Newcastle or Liverpool. Our first choice midfield is McTominay and Fred. That is unforgivable from the board. Whatever you think about the De Jong situation, it's unforgivable that we are on tour with McTominay and Fred as our first choice midfield and we're having to use youngsters like Savage and Iqbal in the second half. That is appalling from United's recruitment. This De Jong deal ain't getting solved anytime soon. So I do think carry on with De Jong, but go and get Tielemans or Neves. Get somebody in, because we're not just replacing one player. We need to replace Matic and Pogba. And also last year, most people felt that we should have got another midfielder. So really, we need 3. All right, Garner can be one of them, but we still need 2. We're really short in the midfield, and that's the frustration about this De Jong deal. I still think it's going to happen. I'm still very confident. But what I will sit here and say is, it's not happening anytime soon. It's just going to keep going on and on and on. And whilst it keeps going on and on and on, we struggle in our midfield because our midfield ain't good enough. It's just as simple as that. So that's my frustration with the De Jong thing. I still think it's going to happen. I think it's all a big game. And